Hello everybody, Matthew Montoya, Partner Enablement and Training Manager with Constant Contact with another Marketing Minute. You know, one question I get about Marketing Minutes is how I'm producing the Marketing Minutes. I've had several solution providers ask me to produce a Marketing Minute on how I produce the Marketing Minutes, especially around producing video content on the cheap, which this certainly fits that bill. So let's take a look behind the curtains and see how I produce these videos. First, before I show you how I build the complete Marketing Minute videos and give you some ideas on how you might want to produce your own, I just want to walk you through some of the thought process that goes behind it and then the hardware and software that I use to produce it. So first thing I do is, first thing I want to make clear is this is how I have done it. In fact, it's not how I do it currently. Using some slightly more advanced software now, but what I want to do is try to point this to the beginners. If you are offering video marketing, you might as well just stop this now. This is really going to be for those that want to get their feet wet in video editing and don't want to spend a lot of money. This is not going to be for the pro user. The pro users, you're probably already producing much better videos than the Marketing Minute. This is really just for folks to first and foremost be marketing their business and getting used to the concept of doing video production work, not for the power user. So first what we'll talk about is just the planning that goes behind producing these, then the tools and the software, and then I'll actually demonstrate how I produce them as quickly as I can in a video like this. So it all starts with a plan. First, you got to think about your goal. What am I trying to do? Am I trying to get people to pick up the phone? Am I trying to get people to learn something? Am I trying to promote my business or brand? Think about the goal and build your plan around the goal. This is, elemental marketing concept here. But you really want to start with that plan first because it then kind of tells you which direction to go. And then from there, develops a topic. So what topic will fit the goal I'm trying to achieve? And then build an outline. Now, whether you type out the outline, you write out the outline, just think through the outline. You want to think about the flow. Like, what elements am I going to need to collect to produce the effect that I want? Generally, you're going to want to do an introduction that can be just as simple as, hey, I'm Matthew with yada yada. But you do want to have the interest. That's usually a part of an outline. And then you want to think about what content you're going to need to produce that effect. So I'm going to need the screenshot of this, and I'm going to need a little bit of Constant Contact for that, a little bit of Facebook for that. And this might have several different elements. You might need to have a little bit of PowerPoint and a little bit of video from a video screen capture. It really depends on whatever goal you're trying to achieve. And then generally you're going to wrap things up and thank people. So in a nutshell, that's generally going to be what your outline is going to look like. Obviously, all of those content examples would be filled in with actual data. So you would actually have, I'm going to have PowerPoint for this part, I'm going to use a screen capture for that part, and I'm going to use a still image for that part. And that's basically what your outline would be. You're going to determine which content platform you're going to use to produce those elements. So again, am I going to use PowerPoint for this? Am I going to use Camtasia for that? Am I going to use Snagit for this or that or the other? So the content examples are going to help you determine what platform you're going to capture this information on. Then you're going to create the video element for each of those pieces. So once you've determined what platform you're going to use, then it's just a matter of capturing the information. Edit it all together and produce it. That, in a nutshell, is the process in building one of these videos and probably producing one of your own. Now, the hardware I use, again, this is just the hardware I use. I'm not advocating these pieces, but I just want to give you a little insight into the tools I use. So to capture the face video part of these Marketing Minutes, and you don't necessarily have to have a face video part if you don't want to capture talking face or somebody else's talking face, but if you do, you're going to probably want to invest in a couple of pieces. It starts with my cell phone. I happen to use a Samsung Galaxy S7 Edge. It takes really good video. Honestly, if you use a modern smartphone, it's going to produce pretty decent video. Obviously, if you're doing things for high-end clients, you might want to invest in better cameras that provide a better feature set as far as lighting conditions and speed and things like that. But honestly, for the kind of video that you see in the Marketing Minute, a smartphone camera is all you're probably going to need. Next thing is a gimbal stabilizer. So this is not necessary. The only reason I've invested in a gimbal stabilizer is because I like to have movement in my video, and I explain a little bit later that I like the natural lighting that I get when I'm outside. And if I'm going to be moving, and I'm going to be moving outside, then I certainly want to stabilize my video. Cell phones do have stabilizers built into them, but they're not all that great, and people can actually notice when your hand is moving as you're taking footsteps. Not necessary to have a stabilizer, but I'd encourage you that if you're not going to use a stabilizer, then use a tripod. There's plenty of adapters for a smartphone to sit on a tripod. Again, it's only necessary if you're going to be doing face capture. Last thing is a lavalier mic. This plugs into the headphone jack of my smartphone and just produces a much higher quality audio than my smartphone can capture. It's going to just be a little more rich, in line with the kind of audio you're hearing now, although I'm not using it for this recording because this is not a face recording at this particular moment. Now, as far as recording the audio you're hearing right now, I'm using a Blue Snowball USB microphone plugged into my computer. I can't, again, I don't want to advocate getting any particular piece of hardware or software, but I do suggest that if you are doing video production, audio production, even webinars, invest in a good mic. I know a lot of people that do webinars might have a USB kind of over the head mic. They don't sound quite as good. They don't capture your voice in as good a quality. And I'm always from the side that if you're using your voice to sell, which technically that's what a webinar would be, certainly worth the investment in getting a good microphone. And one thing I want to make clear about all these price points is, for the most part, I personally own these items. I didn't have Constant Contact buy them. Now, I'm only saying that because I don't want anybody sitting there going, well, Constant Contact's a big company, I can't afford this stuff. I bought all this stuff myself, nearly everything except for, I believe, the lavalier mic I spoke about earlier. Almost all of this is owned by me, and I bought it piecemeal. So rather than making just one investment in everything, I got one piece at a time and just slowly built up my collection. But the first and foremost, most important piece I've ever bought is the mic. Now, I do have a pop filter. A pop filter sits in front of the mic, and it just stops the P sounds and S sounds from popping on the mic. It allows your voice to sound all the more clear, and it's a pretty low threshold investment, and I highly suggest that. Now, in the two kind of extremes here, the shock mount is not absolutely necessary, but what it does prevent is if you are tapping or hitting your hand against a table or even typing on a keyboard, it reduces the noise that would be transmitted to the mic, and it just makes you sound more professional. I invest in that because I do so many webinars, and I'm having to type, I'm having to move my mouse around, and again, I'm using my voice to make people do something, either sign up for Constant Contact, pay attention, learn, and so it's worth the investment for me. Not absolutely necessary. It's something I would keep down the road. Last thing is a microphone suspension arm that comes off my desk. Again, not 100% necessary, but honestly, because I do webinars and I have to have access to my keyboard and my mouse, it keeps my mic out of my way and allows me to focus on my screen and keep my hands free from hitting the mic. That's actually a pretty good purchase, and I didn't put the pricing in here, but it runs anywhere from about $10 to $50 on the extreme, based on what level of quality you want. Honestly, the low-end ones are going to be just fine. Software-wise, I use a tool called Snippet to capture just still images. There's a lot of tools out there that do this. I use Snippet because it's free and it's based in PCs. If you type in the word Snippet into any PC ever sold, any Windows PC, you'll find it. A lot of other tools do more advanced things. Jing does some really great things. I use Snippet just because it's lightweight, it's free, it's already in my computer. Generally does what I wanted to do, which is just do a quick screen capture. Now, when I say screen capture, it's still images off the computer. I actually use PowerPoint to do a lot of video capture. So what PowerPoint does, and I'm going to teach this a little bit later, is it will actually capture and record anything on your screen. It doesn't need to be the later versions of PowerPoint, but it's a really great tool. I use PowerPoint quite a bit in both video and image editing and production. Now, I have moved to Camtasia, as you see there, but I've just gotten it, and Camtasia does a lot of the things that I would use these other three tools for. So perhaps I'll do a follow-up video on my Camtasia work, but Camtasia does have a pretty decent price point and a pretty steep learning curve. You know, with the theory of this Marketing Minute being keeping things simple and getting started on the cheap, Camtasia will just pretend like I'm not using that yet. But the last piece here is Windows Movie Maker. Now, a couple things about Windows Movie Maker. It used to be standard on Windows machines. Now it doesn't come with Windows. In fact, Windows has, or Microsoft has discontinued actively promoting it and supporting it. That said, there are plenty of sites you can find it's still available for download. Just know that you're not going to be able to get support for it. Obviously, if you're using an Apple, use iMovie, and I can't teach you both. I don't have an Apple. I can't teach you iMovie, but it works very similar to Movie Maker, and I think for the sake of this production today, using Movie Maker will be fine. Last piece of hardware is my laptop. Now, I've got a pretty advanced laptop, and this would be an example of something Constant Contact has provided me for my work beyond just video editing, but it's a pretty powerful machine, and I think you want to make sure that you have a machine that can handle the graphics. So producing video takes a lot of processing power, not 100% necessary. Just means that your production time is going to really slow down. If you have an older computer, and when I say older, I mean, more than 5 to 8 years old, you'll probably see it really drag through some of the video production stuff. So you certainly want to use the newer of the computers you have around. Certainly nothing as advanced as an i7 chip, but you probably want to have something on the higher end of processing power. And in particular, you want to have a pretty good graphics card. So once you have decided what you're going to shoot, what you're going to record, you set out your plan and you know your goal, and then you've determined what tools you'll use. What I want to do next is walk you through some of the tools that I use to capture content. The number one tool I use is PowerPoint, at least up until about 2 weeks ago. I've started to use Camtasia. As I mentioned there at the top, Camtasia is a feature-rich tool. It does come with a decently steep learning curve and a price point that would put it outside of the concept of this Marketing Minute, which is doing video on the cheap. So, and quite frankly, I would still use PowerPoint in a pinch anyway. So with that, PowerPoint, one thing that's very overlooked, a feature in PowerPoint that's very overlooked, is going to be found here in the insert menu, and it's called screen recording. And what it does is literally allows you to grab live video and audio off of anything on your computer. That can be websites, so I could capture pieces of Constant Contact and walk people through various things that I want to teach them, and they would see you clicking. And basically, if you've been watching my Marketing Minutes, this is how I do the Constant Contact piece, the demonstration piece of my Marketing Minutes. And of course, it could capture literally anything. So if you're teaching social media or website design or whatever you're wanting to do, it'll capture it. Another thing that it's really great for is producing PowerPoint documents. So if you create a PowerPoint document with all your slides and all your transitions, it'll capture it. If you hit that capture button, it'll capture it. And that's really great if you're wanting to do a presentation as part of your video, or if you want to have content that's not related to a demonstration. In fact, if you've watched my last 2 Marketing Minutes, they were all PowerPoint. I just captured it using this screen capture, screen recording tool. Now, when you do the screen recording, the first step is to, after you choose screen record, is to choose the area you want to record. And that's going to be represented by the dotted red line. You grab that over the piece that you want to record. You hit record, it starts running, and then you basically hit stop when you're done. Now, one thing I tend to do is I tend to just keep on talking. So if I mess up, I just pause and then I carry on my training. I'll fix those issues in edit. The last thing I want to talk about is Snipping Tool. Snipping Tool is my go-to tool if I need to grab an image. Now, I'd be willing to bet many of you use a Snipping Tool, Snippet, or a similar tool on your computer. But basically what this allows me to do, in case you're unfamiliar with it, is grab an image off of something that's on my computer, and I just simply save it, and then I insert that image into wherever I want to in the video to do my training, to make my point, etc. Now, this next piece might be a little confusing. Just to be clear, up here at the top is PowerPoint. Down here is the actual video that I just captured using PowerPoint. And I'm going to resize this down just a little bit so you can see the difference, but I'm within PowerPoint. And this is a video, the one you saw me capture. I can move it back and forth. It captured the movement of the mouse and my audio. And now I just simply need to right-click into the video, and I'm going to save the media. And by saving the media, now I'm going to have a file type that I can then use in my editing tool. The next step is to edit everything together. Now again, I, up until very recently, have only been using Movie Maker, and I did explain at the top of the video that there's advantages and mostly disadvantages to using it. But as far as doing this on the cheap standpoint, you really can't beat Movie Maker or iMovie to produce these videos. That said, it does have limitations. So the first step is to bring in the various elements that I'm trying to produce. I'm going to simply bring in some videos of pieces that I want, and this takes a little while to process, and what I'm doing is reducing the size of the thumbnail so that I can see more of the finished product once I'm done. So now that I have my 2 elements, I've got my intro and my outro that I recorded all at once. As I said before, generally I just let the camera run and I do my several takes and I get it right, and then I just cut the pieces together, cut the pieces out that I don't want, keep the pieces that I do. Here I have my PowerPoint slideshow. This was a slideshow that I recorded with a second PowerPoint, so I had 2 PowerPoints points running, one with my slideshow and one with that was actually capturing the screen share. So now it's just a matter of finding the edit points. Now, typically I'd be a lot more careful with this. I'd have my headphones on, I'd be listening carefully. But basically what I'm looking for is the moments that I don't want and kind of trimming those out. And we'll just pretend for the sake of this example that this is where I want it. Now I'm sliding over the outro. So this is the intro, that's the outro. Sliding the outro over to the end of the presentation and cutting out the pieces I don't want. I'm simply selecting the frame, so you can actually see there's several frames here. I'm clicking on the frame and deleting the one that I don't want. Next thing I'm going to do is I would go through the PowerPoint, make sure that there are no gaps and other things that I didn't want. We'll assume that I've done that. So I've got my intro, my presentation, and my outro. Now, again, the middle part could be part PowerPoint, could also be part demo where I did a screen capture of just Constant Contact or another tool that I wanted to highlight. Other things that I can do to build a presentation is I can add pictures and video from other sources as well. So if I have an image that I want to share, I can do that as well. And select the image, and now that image will be displayed in the presentation. If I double click on the image, I can decide how long that image will be displayed, and when the video plays, and it would go straight into that image. As far as how deep into the rabbit hole you want to go with your editing, I tend to go pretty extreme. So I look for any dead air and crop those dead air moments out. I probably wouldn't do that with face video. And this is a good example where I'm not speaking until this moment. So I'm going to get rid of that. And I'm just hitting split and getting rid of the frame that I don't want. Anyway, so after you go through all your edits, and I'll continue that frame of thought, you know, as far as the rabbit hole you want to go, if you want to get rid of every and every and every break, then it's a little tedious. You have to go through the video several times to pull all those pieces out, but it does produce a much more professional looking video. Other things that I would do as editing is I would select some fades. So if I go into the visual effects, go to multiple effects, and I'd probably choose a fade out to white, and then for this frame, and what that's going to allow me to do is have a nice, you see the fade there, just a nice transition for your viewers. And there's a variety of different kinds of effects I can apply, but generally I find that a lot of these are a little cheesy. Same thing with animation. Animations are going to be segues between frames. So let's say that I want to have a segue where there's an overlay and these two pieces are going to transition into each other with a nice clean, there we go, a nice clean transition between them. So I had the fade and the transition, adds a nice professional polish to it. A lot of the other effects are a little cheesy and kind of overdone in, you know, low-end video editing and marketing. Next thing I would do is I'd bring in my introductory artwork, and you just bring that image in wherever you want it. So I usually kind of say, hey, it's Matt, welcome to the Marketing Minute, and then it cuts to the still image. Now do know, what you've seen in the video today and the last couple of videos is my new updated introduction with a little bit of animation. I actually did that myself. I found some animation that Constant Contact had produced. I did a screen capture of that using the tools that I've taught you earlier, and then just added some titles over it. But this still image static, and what I would do is I would add some movement to it, bringing a little bit of pan and zoom, and I'll slowly zoom in. So now that image is zooming in, and then I would add in a caption. So I'll put my date in, and for the caption, I'll have a little bit of animation go with that. And usually I have something going, something like that. And so the combination is those two pieces will move together, and you could do various forms of how you want these pieces to play out. I would generally do the same thing here at the end to do my outro and my thank you, and I'd add a caption there too. So all told, I'd add in some fades, and last thing I would usually do is bring in some music. One nice thing about the Movie Maker is they do have some free music sources. They're royalty free, so you can use those, but I generally just add in audio that I want to bring in. This is some free audio that I got from a royalty free site, and choose when I want that music to end. So I'm going to have it in just after my introductory little artwork there. Click delete on my keyboard to get rid of the rest. With the music, I'll also have it fade in and fade out. There we go. Final step. We'll pretend that all of this has been gone through with a fine-tooth comb, and the last thing I'm going to do is save the movie. Usually save it at the highest resolution I possibly can, and what I'll end up with is a finished file that I can then upload to YouTube, use on Facebook, etc., etc., and that's it in a nutshell.
If you enjoyed today's video, and you want to learn more about the value proposition video can bring to your marketing and to your emails, I encourage you to attend Kickoff. Kickoff is going to be the 7th between 11 a.m. and 5 p.m. It is a day-long session or series of sessions that's going to teach you video and way more. We've got a ton of content for you. And in fact, I'll be teaching all the latest updates and show you some updates that are coming to Constant Contact in Kickoff. So make sure you register now.
That's it for this Marketing Minute. We'll see you next time, everybody. Take care. Thank you.